The awakening captain, Elena Vasquez, stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Endeavour, watching the stars streak past through the main viewport. 3 years into their deep space mission, her mixed crew of humans and aliens had mapped 17 new star systems and discovered 6 potentially habitable worlds. It was good work, the kind that would secure funding for another decade of exploration. But Elena craved something more than routine surveys and mineral assessments. The bridge was a comfortable blend of human, engineering, and alien technology. The Corallian navigation systems provided unmatched precision, while grim structural reinforcements made the ship nearly indestructible. Elena had learned long ago that the best results came from combining the strengths of different species, even if it sometimes led to interesting cultural conflicts. Dr. Marcus Chen burst through the bridge doors, his tablet clutched against his chest and excitement written across his weathered face. The xenarchaeologist had spent most of the mission cataloguing ancient ruins on dead worlds. But Elena had never seen him this animated. Behind him followed Zara, their Corallian navigator, her 4 arms gesturing frantically as she tried to keep up with the human's rapid pace. "Captain, you need to see this immediately," Marcus said, nearly breathless as he approached her command chair. "We've detected something on the long-range sensors that defies explanation." Elena raised an eyebrow. After 3 years of working together, Marcus had developed a tendency toward dramatic pronouncements, but his scientific instincts were usually sound. "Defies explanation, Doctor." Zara's compound eyes flickered with the patterns that indicated deep concern among her people. "Captain Vasquez, the object is massive beyond any construction we have recorded. It measures approximately 5 kilometers in length and shows clear signs of artificial origin." The main screen flickered to life, displaying sensor readings that made Elena lean forward in her chair. The object was indeed massive, shaped like an elongated diamond with smooth, flowing curves that seemed to bend light around them. Its surface appeared to be composed of some dark material that absorbed sensor waves rather than reflecting them. "How far out?" Elena asked, already knowing she wouldn't like the answer. "Approximately 8 million kilometers off our port bow," replied Lieutenant Sarah Park from the pilot station. The young officer's fingers were already dancing across her console, plotting approach vectors. "At current speed, we could intercept in 18 hours. Thorak, their grim engineer, emerged from the maintenance hatch where he had been working on the environmental systems. The massive, stone-like alien moved with surprising grace despite his imposing size. His species had been building things for thousands of years before humans had discovered fire, and his expression of bewilderment was deeply unsettling. "Impossible readings," Thorak rumbled in his deep, gravelly voice. "Material composition unknown. Energy signatures inconsistent with any known technology. This vessel predates all recorded civilizations." Marcus was practically vibrating with excitement as he pulled up more detailed scans. "Captain, I've run the analysis 3 times, based on cosmic radiation exposure and gravitational stress patterns. This ship has been drifting through space for at least 100,000 years, possibly longer." Elena studied the readings more carefully. The ship showed no signs of active propulsion or communication systems, but something about its positioning bothered her. It wasn't tumbling randomly like most derelicts she had encountered. Instead, it maintained a steady orientation, as if it was still under some form of control. "Any signs of life aboard?" she asked. "Negative," Sarah replied. "No energy signatures, no thermal readings, no electromagnetic activity. For all intents and purposes, it appears to be completely dead." But Elena had learned to trust her instincts during her 15 years of deep space exploration. Something about the ancient vessel felt different, almost expectant. "Take us closer, Lieutenant. Nice and easy." As the Endeavour approached the derelict ship, more details became visible on their screens. The hull was seamless, without any visible joints or construction marks. Strange symbols covered its surface in flowing patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed indirectly. The craftsmanship was beyond anything Elena had ever seen, combining artistic beauty with obvious functionality. "The symbols are unlike anything in our databases," Marcus said, his archaeological training kicking in as he tried to analyze the alien writing. "They don't match any known language family, but there's something familiar about their structure." That was when things began to go wrong. Zara suddenly hissed and stumbled backward from her navigation console, all four of her arms clutching her head. The compound patterns in her eyes were flashing erratically, a sign of severe distress among her people. "Something is wrong. I feel sick, disoriented. The readings are affecting my neural patterns." Thorok was experiencing similar problems. The massive alien had fallen to one knee, his rocky skin showing stress fractures as his body tried to cope with whatever was affecting him. "Neurological interference," he managed to growl through gritted teeth. "Ship is broadcasting something that attacks alien nervous systems." Elena felt perfectly fine, as did Marcus and Sarah. The humans on the bridge were experiencing no ill effects whatsoever from their proximity to the ancient vessel. But their alien crew members were clearly in distress, and Elena wasn't about to risk their lives for the sake of exploration. "Sarah, back us off to a safe distance," she ordered. "Get our people clear of whatever that thing is broadcasting." As they moved away from the derelict, the alien crew members gradually recovered. Zara's eye patterns returned to normal, and Thorok was able to stand without difficulty. But the experience had clearly shaken them both. "Most strange," Thorok said, examining his scanner readings. "The interference affects only non-human nervous systems. Humans appear to be completely immune." Elena called a meeting in the ship's conference room once everyone had recovered. The entire crew gathered around the central table, human and alien faces showing a mixture of curiosity and concern. Elena had commanded mixed crews for years, but she had never encountered anything that affected species so differently. "We need to decide our next move," Elena began. "We've discovered what appears to be the oldest artificial construction in known space, but it's actively hostile to most of our crew." Sarah's translator unit rendered her clicking speech into standard. "Captain, a discovery of this magnitude belongs to the Galactic Research Council. We should transmit our findings immediately and wait for a properly equipped scientific expedition." Thorok nodded in agreement, though Elena noticed he kept glancing nervously toward the viewport where the ancient ship was barely visible as a dark spot against the stars. The grim science collective would consider this find invaluable. Technology that old could advance our understanding of galactic history by millennia. Marcus leaned forward, his excitement barely contained. "But we might be the only ones who can safely investigate it. If the ship's defenses or systems only allow human interaction, we could be looking at the archaeological find of the century." Elena considered their options carefully. The logical choice was to report their discovery and wait for backup, but something about the ancient vessel called to her, demanding investigation. After years of routine exploration, they had finally found something truly extraordinary. "We're going to board that ship," she decided. "Human crew only, full environmental suits, and we maintain constant contact with the Endeavour." If anything goes wrong, Sarah gets us out of there immediately. Sarah grinned with the enthusiasm that had made her Alina's favorite pilot. Finally, some real excitement. When do we leave? 2 hours, Alina replied. Marcus, I want every scanner. We have focused on that ship. Look for docking bays, airlocks, anything that might give us entry. Sarah, prep the shuttle and run full diagnostics on our environmental systems. As they prepared for the boarding mission, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything. The ancient ship had waited in the darkness of space for longer than human civilization had existed. Whatever secrets it contained, they were about to become the first beings in millennia to uncover them. The shuttle bay of the ancient vessel opened like a mouth welcoming them home. Alina felt her heart racing as Sarah guided their craft through. The opening into a docking bay that was easily 5 times larger than anything on the Endeavour. The walls were the same light-absorbing material as the hull, but as soon as their shuttle touched down, strips of soft white light began to illuminate along the floor and ceiling. Well, that's not ominous at all, Sarah muttered as she powered down the shuttle's engines. Through the viewport, they could see that the docking bay was filled with breathable atmosphere. Though their sensors couldn't identify the exact gas mixture, Marcus was practically bouncing in his seat as he studied the readings on his tablet. The atmospheric composition is perfect for human life. Oxygen-nitrogen mix, even the pressure is exactly what we're used to. How is that possible after 100,000 years? Alina made the decision that would change the course of galactic history. We're going EVA, full environmental suits until we know more about the atmosphere. The airlock cycled, and Alina stepped onto the deck of the ancient ship, followed by Marcus and Sarah. The moment her boots touched the floor, more lights activated in a clear pathway leading deeper into the vessel. It was as if the ship was inviting them forward, showing them the way home. The corridor walls were covered in the same flowing symbols they had seen on the hull. But as they walked deeper into the ship, the patterns began to change and shift. What had appeared to be random alien writing was transforming into something that almost resembled pictographs. The symbols are responding to our presence, Marcus said, his voice filled with wonder as he recorded everything with his suits. Cameras, they're changing into configurations that seem almost familiar, like the ship is trying to communicate with us. Sarah kept her hand near her sidearm, though Alina doubted a simple energy pistol would be much use against a ship that could manipulate matter at the molecular level. I don't like this, Captain. It feels like we're being herded somewhere specific. Alina wasn't particularly worried. Despite the obvious alien nature of their surroundings, the ship felt familiar somehow, like walking through a house she had lived in as a child. Maybe we are. Let's see where it wants us to go. They followed the lighted pathway through corridors that seemed to stretch on forever. The architecture was unlike anything in the galactic databases, with flowing curves. That reminded Alina of ocean waves frozen in metal and crystal. Every surface was covered in symbols that moved and changed, telling stories in a language none of them could read, but somehow understood on an emotional level. The pathway led them to a massive circular chamber at what Alina assumed was the ship's heart. The room was dominated by a raised platform in the center, surrounded by what looked like control consoles that seemed to grow out of the floor itself. Above them, the ceiling was transparent, showing the stars outside in perfect clarity. This has to be the bridge, Sarah said, walking up to one of the consoles. But I've never seen controls like these. There aren't any buttons or switches. just these smooth surfaces with flowing patterns. Alina approached the central platform, feeling drawn to it by something she couldn't name. There was a depression in the surface that looked exactly the right size for a human hand. The urge to place her palm against it was almost overwhelming. Without really thinking about what she was doing, Alina removed her glove and placed her bare hand against the smooth interface. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The entire ship hummed to life around them, control panels lighting up with symbols and displays that pulsed with inner fire. But the most shocking thing was the voice that spoke directly into their minds, bypassing their ears entirely and communicating in perfect, unaccented standard. "Welcome home, children of the Makers. I am Sentinel, guardian of the vessel you call the Eternal Warden. I have waited 127,439 years for your return." The inheritance. Alina jerked her hand back from the interface, but the ship remained active around them. The presence that called itself Sentinel continued speaking, and somehow they could all understand it perfectly, despite the fact that it was using concepts that had no equivalent in any known language. "Return." Marcus managed to stammer, his scientific training struggling to process what he was experiencing. "We've never been here before. Humans have only been part of the galactic community for 75 years. The artificial intelligence that inhabited the ancient vessel seemed to find this amusing. Dr. Chen, your species has been part of the galactic community far longer than your current records indicate. You simply forgot your origins during the long exile on your birth world." Sarah's hand moved instinctively toward her weapon, though she had the sense not to draw it. "That's impossible. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records, genetic evidence, archaeological proof of our development. Your planet Earth was indeed where your species developed," Sentinel acknowledged. "But the world you call home was carefully prepared by the Makers as a nursery for their most important creation. The genetic patterns they used were their own, modified to survive and thrive in isolation until the galaxy needed you most." Alina felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. The Makers, who were they? The central chamber around them began to change, walls becoming transparent to reveal vast star charts and historical displays. Images flowed across the surfaces, showing civilizations rising and falling, species evolving and spreading across the galaxy, and through it all, the same flowing symbols that covered the ship's hull. The Makers were the first sapient species to achieve true understanding of the universe, Sentinel explained. They guided the development of countless worlds, nurtured the growth of dozens of species, and built wonders that still shape the galaxy today. But they also foresaw what was coming. The star charts zoomed out to show not just their galaxy, but the vast emptiness between galaxies. And in that darkness, shapes were moving. Massive, predatory forms that dwarfed even the largest. Space stations, consuming everything in their path as they drifted through the cosmic void. "The Devourers," Sentinel said, and the ship's voice carried emotions that artificial intelligences weren't supposed to possess: fear, determination, and desperate hope. "They have consumed 17 galaxies across the universe, turning entire civilizations into raw materials for their expansion. The Milky Way is their next target." Marcus was recording everything, his tablet struggling to process the massive amount of data the ship was sharing. "How long do we have?" "The advanced scouts will arrive within the next 50 of your years," Sentinel replied. "The main swarm will follow within a century. When they arrive, every species in this galaxy will face extinction unless someone stands against them," Sarah studied the tactical displays that were appearing around the bridge, her military training automatically analyzing the threat data. These things are the size of moons. How is anyone supposed to fight them? With ships like this one, Alina said, understanding beginning to dawn on her. The makers built these vessels as weapons against the Devourers. Correct, Captain Vasquez. The Eternal Warden is one of 847 Guardian-class vessels scattered throughout the galaxy, each one waiting for human activation. Every ship, every installation, every defensive platform built by the makers will only respond to the genetic markers carried by your species. The implications hit Alina like a physical blow. You're saying humanity was created to be galactic peacekeepers. You were created to be galactic survivors, Sentinel corrected. The makers knew they could not defeat the Devourers through force alone, but they could create a species with the adaptability, courage, and stubbornness necessary to find a way. Every challenge your species has overcome, every impossible situation you have survived, was preparation for this moment. Communications crackled through their suit radios as the Endeavour attempted to reach them. Captain, this is Thorak. We are detecting massive energy readings from your location. Also, we are receiving priority communications from Galactic Command. Multiple ships are powering up across known space, all of them broadcasting on frequencies that match your current location. Alina looked around the bridge at her small crew, realizing that they had just stumbled into the greatest responsibility. In galactic history, 3 humans on a routine exploration mission had just inherited a fleet that could reshape the balance of power across known space. Sentinel, what do you need from us? She asked. Learn, grow, prepare. The Devourers are already moving through dark space toward your galaxy. When they arrive, you will need every advantage the Makers left for you. But first, you must claim your inheritance. The ship's systems were coming online all around them. Displays showing weapon capabilities that defied understanding. Defensive systems that could withstand stellar explosions. And engines that could travel between galaxies in a matter of weeks. The Eternal Warden wasn't just a ship. It was a mobile fortress designed to wage war on a cosmic scale. The other Guardian vessels are awakening, Sentinel continued. Their heirs will be contacting the nearest human populations, offering the same choice I now offer you. Accept your role as inheritors of the Maker's legacy, or watch as the galaxy burns. Sarah was studying the tactical systems with growing excitement. Captain, this ship alone could take on the entire combined fleet. If there are 846 more like it, humanity would become the dominant military power in the galaxy overnight, Alina finished. The other species wouldn't stand for it. As if summoned by her words, emergency communications began flooding in from the Endeavour. Zara's translated voice crackled through the static. Captain, we are receiving urgent transmission from the Galactic Council. They are demanding immediate explanation for the activation of ancient weapons platforms throughout Council space. Rumbling voice followed. Multiple Council fleets are mobilizing. They are treating the Guardian activation as an act of aggression by human forces. Alina closed her eyes, feeling the weight of command settling over her like a physical burden. In the space of an hour, she had gone from routine exploration captain to potentially the most important human in galactic history. Every decision she made from this point forward could affect the survival of countless species. Sentinel, can you communicate with the other Guardian heirs? Of course, Captain. We maintain constant contact through quantum entanglement networks established by the Makers. Would you like to address the other awakening vessels? Alina nodded, knowing that she was about to make a choice that would echo through history. Put me through. The bridge filled with voices as dozens of Guardian A's came online, each one reporting their status and the reaction of local authorities to their activation. From the Rigel system, Guardian Phoenix reported that Altarian patrol fleets were attempting to establish quarantine zones around the awakened vessel. Near the Galactic core, Guardian Storm was surrounded by consortium battleships demanding surrender of the ancient technology. All Guardian vessels. This is Captain Elena Vasquez aboard the Eternal Warden, she said, her voice carrying across interstellar distances through technology she barely understood. I am assuming operational command of the Guardian fleet under the authority granted by the Maker's protocols. The response was immediate and unanimous. Every Guardian AI acknowledged her authority, their ancient programming recognizing the human genetic markers that marked her as a legitimate heir to the Maker's legacy. Marcus was staring at her with something approaching awe. Alina, do you realize what you just did? You just claimed command of the most powerful fleet in galactic history. I claimed responsibility, Alina corrected. And we're going to need every ship if Sentinel is right about these devourers. The main display shifted to show real-time positions of Guardian vessels throughout the galaxy. Alina watched as ancient ships that had slept for millennia began moving, their crews of one preparing for a war that wouldn't begin for decades. But she knew that the immediate challenge wouldn't be the cosmic threat in dark space. It would be convincing the existing galactic powers that humanity deserved to wield such force. Captain, Sarah said quietly, what are we going to tell the Council? Alina thought about it for a long moment, watching the stars wheel slowly past the transparent ceiling of the ancient bridge. Somewhere out in the darkness between galaxies, an enemy beyond imagination was approaching their home. In a few decades, every species she had ever known would be fighting for their very existence. We're going to tell them the truth, she decided. We're going to explain about the devourers, about humanity's role in the Maker's plan, and about the choice that every species in the galaxy now faces. Which is? Marcus asked. Alina turned to face her crew, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. Accept humanity as the inheritors of the Guardian fleet, or face the devourers alone when they arrive. Sentinel's presence seemed pleased with her decision. The Makers chose well when they created your species, Captain Vasquez. You have the courage to accept responsibility and the wisdom to understand its weight. Communications from the Endeavor were becoming more urgent. Galactic Command was demanding their immediate return to human space for debriefing. Council fleets were mobilizing throughout known space, and several species were calling for emergency sessions to address the human threat. But Alina wasn't worried about politics or diplomacy. She was thinking about the massive shapes moving through dark space, about the 17 consumed galaxies that had failed to stand against the approaching darkness. Humanity had been created for this moment, shaped by countless challenges and hardships to become the sword and shield of galactic civilization. Sentinel, how long will it take to fully activate the Guardian network? With your authorization, Captain, all vessels can be operational within 72 hours. However, finding suitable human crews for each ship will take significantly longer. Alina smiled grimly. Then we'd better get started. Sarah set course for the nearest Council outpost. It's time to introduce the galaxy to their new protectors. As the Eternal Warden came alive around them, its ancient engines humming with power that hadn't been felt for over 100,000 years, Alina Vasquez knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer just another species struggling to find its place in the galactic community. They were the inheritors of the greatest military force in known space, and the guardians who would stand between civilization and the darkness that was coming. The stars awaited their arrival, and the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. Asterisk.